as the Bee is reporting, this is a big weekend, right? This is when the restrictions start to get rolled back. Talk to us about what we can expect to see, what's allowed, what still isn't allowed.
That is big news. The governor has rolled back some of the restrictions, particularly for religious gatherings. How that's going to affect people is that even though they can gather inside now for religious gatherings in bigger groups, he is still requesting that people wear face masks and practice physical distancing. And I think that's true of most of the restrictions. With the restaurants, they can go back to 100% capacity, but the question is, can they go back to 100% capacity if they are still physical distancing the tables? And if, that makes it a little difficult for a smaller restaurant, for example, to even consider going back to 100%. It's going to help in that restaurants can decide for themselves how much more they can take on. And we suspect that there are going to be some restaurants that are going to say, we're not ready yet, as long as this physical distancing is taking place, and we are going to continue with our takeout and our curbside. That is really working for us.
And like you just mentioned, the weather is supposed to be nice. And yes, we remember a year ago, this is, for a lot of people, this is a very holy time of year. People were not able to practice. So I suspect that, the combination of these two different things, I think we're going to see people taking advantage of the outdoors for sure.
People will take advantage of the outdoors, and that's a really good thing because more and more people in Connecticut are being vaccinated, and I forget how many thousands are fully vaccinated at this time, which opens indoor gatherings of families and friends as well as outdoor. And I think outdoor is where most people feel comfortable. Now, it's interesting that you mentioned about the religious gatherings, because in this week's paper, you're going to read an update on the Interfaith Council meeting that was just held. And a lot of the representatives who were there are still a little hesitant about the holy days that are coming up, so far as returning into an inside gathering. It looks like for several of the Protestant churches in town, at least, it's going to remain virtual right through Easter.
This past week on WPKN, we discussed the article in the Bee, and we quoted Donna Culpert, and there are still, as of a week ago, there were 1,600 cases in Newtown. Is that accurate? That's what I read.
I believe it's something like 17, closer to 17.
Okay, so
17. But the good news is that even though we've had 35 new cases this week reported, there have been no additional deaths from COVID in Newtown. So that's a real positive sort of thing. You're going to see, what Donna Culbert is continuing to promote is please be patient. The governor is also promoting please be patient. Because as you know, beginning April 5th, they are tentatively hoping to open up all scheduling of vaccines to people ages 16 and over.
Yeah.
That means that there are going to be thousands more people trying to get appointments to get a vaccination. So people just have to be really diligent in finding a place where they can get an appointment, but they also have to be very patient. The good news is that we are ramped up, and more people are taking these vaccinations that are available to them.
Well, again, I thank you for keeping us up to date locally week to week on this. I definitely rely on you for updates. Let's talk more local news, what's going to be in the Bee this week. One of the most tragic stories that I ever covered working in local news as a young reporter was a house fire in Stamford around Christmas years ago. It appears that the quick action of some Newtowners might have saved this from being a much more drastic situation.
Right. There was a fire reported on Boxford Hill that was reported by a neighbor who noticed the smoke, and a passerby who took action until the emergency responders could get there. And it really did save the house from possibly being burned to the ground. We've had a lot of very bad fires the past several months. And with the high winds that we have had, if a fire took off in this location without anybody noticing and nobody being home, it could have been devastating, even more devastating than it is, because, of course, water and smoke damage and fire damage of any kind is horrible for any homeowner to have to encounter.
Yeah, like I said, I've seen the devastation. So that is some good news that the damage was kept to a minimum. Nancy, as we drive around town, it looks like it's November again. We're getting closer to the special election.
We are getting closer to the special election, and this week readers are going to find interviews with each of the 3 candidates for the 112th district. They, of course, have all made their announcements earlier that the Newtown Bee reported on, but these are personal interviews that we've had with each of the candidates. And I think that readers who live in the 112th district, who will be voting on April 13th, are going to find these very informative and help them to get to know these candidates a little bit more, because this is who's going to be representing them.
And this is the type of situation where really to say your vote counts. I could tell you that covering special elections and sometimes it's decided by a handful of votes.
Yes, and I hope that because it's such a small portion of Newtown that the 112th district takes on, I hope that Newtown voters don't shrug it off and say, oh, that's just, mostly Monroe. What does it really matter? Because every vote really does count in every district. You talked a little bit about some good news, and I just want to throw in that there's a couple of articles about some good news happening in Newtown this week. And one of them is that for the high school, outdoor proms and outdoor graduation plans are now underway, and spring sports have gotten the go-ahead. So that was
the next item on the list.
Yeah, I think, it was a really tough year for high school students. And last year, everybody was still scrambling to figure out about how to deal with COVID at the graduations. And I think that our school did a phenomenal effort to make it as special as they could. But this year, it's going to be a little bit more expanded. And, of course, we're going to keep fingers crossed that the weather is going to cooperate whenever they have these things planned. But what a lot of fun for the kids, finally.
When you drive around and you see like the class of 2021 signs in people's lawns, you think, wow, this is what a different, I couldn't imagine of having to have dealt with that, Our
educators and our administration really stepped up at a time when things were still quite in flux. People, we still didn't understand a lot about COVID, even by June of last year. So for them to come up with the plans that they did last year to have these very restricted gatherings for graduation and to have to cancel the proms last year was heartbreaking, but they did a great job. And, now they've had a full year, unfortunately, to figure everything out. So it looks like Newtown High School kids are going to have a much better spring.
For people who want to follow you on social media, and I do, and I got to tell you, I get some of my national news through a local lens through you guys on social media. Where do they find you?
They can find us at newtownbee.com for our website. Go to Facebook, the Newtown Bee. We have updates there. While you'll find more in print edition, breaking news and some of the other items that are more timely that can't wait for another weekly edition of the Newtown Bee do go up on our website, newtownbee.com. And you're going to find videos that we've produced. We've produced many videos this past year that are on our YouTube channel. Again, look for the Newtown Bee, and on your site as well.
And we'll, as always, link those too. I did notice on the national front that you had mentioned 2 things. First off, that we have some more time to file our taxes.
We do have more time to file our taxes. The federal government has moved filing for IRS to May 17, and Connecticut has followed suit. So Connecticut residents who are concerned about getting all their information together during this COVID time and to file in April have another month now before they have to file or make payments. So again, a little bit of good news goes a long way.
And I don't want to end on a sad note, but the flag in town is at half staff because of the events that occurred earlier this week.
Yes, the president ordered flags to half staff yesterday, and hopefully all of our flags have been moved to half staff at this point, and that was to honor the victims of the shootings in Atlanta, Georgia, something that this town is very sensitive to and knows how painful and how it affects a town, no matter how big or small the town is. So yes, if people see the flags at half staff, it's because of the shooting victims in Atlanta.
Nancy, before we let you go, anything else we want to look for? And the new Bee is out now.
This week's Bee is out now. It's out front of the Newtown Bee at 5 Churchill Road. It's in the stores and hopefully in the mailboxes of people who are subscribing. People should look. We have an update on the Verkada security cameras, and I think they're going to find it comforting that the schools and the police have said that the community schools are not at risk because of this item that gained some regional focus last week. And also you want to read about the Newtown Emergency Services that have moved over to the new 191 South Main Street facility. It was almost a little emotional leaving 3.
Hey, listen, WPKN is moving their main studio from the University of Bridgeport into a more centrally located area downtown. Yeah. And yeah, we understand how that feels.
Yeah, it was a little funny. I mean, nobody thinks about the dispatch that much, but it's been at, the Town Hall South at 3 Main Street for quite some time, and it's wonderful. They've moved to a wonderful new situation at 191 South Main Street. So I hope people take a good look at that article this week as well.
And, I pass by it every day. It seems like the police have settled into their new home quite well.
They have. They're very happy there from what we hear.
Yeah. All right, Nancy, thank you so much. If there isn't anything else, we will... oh, by the way, I did reach out and suggest a local Newtowner to Alyssa for the next snapshot, or for a future snapshot, I should say.
Yeah. It's just amazing how many very interesting people, and what we've always found is that people start out by saying like, oh, I'm not very interesting. You don't want to do me for a snapshot. But then they start talking. It's like, yeah, you know what? You're pretty fascinating.
Yeah, well, this guy certainly is.
Okay.
All right, Nancy, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, John.
Be well.